They say the people who love you the most will be there for your biggest moments. But mine weren't. I stood on the big stage, my hands shaking as I held my graduation certificate. I smiled, but it wasn't real. The lights were bright. People clapped. Everyone around me had family. Moms crying, dads hugging, siblings jumping up and down. But not me. My eyes kept looking at the same row. The row I saved for my parents. It was empty. No mom, no dad, no brother. Just cold, empty chairs. And that's the moment I knew. I didn't matter to them. Hey, my name is Maya, and I'm 18 years old. I just graduated high school as valedictorian. That means I was the best in my class. I worked hard. I studied while other kids were out playing. I helped in the library. I tutored students for free. I even gave up sleep. All because I wanted to make my parents proud. But on my graduation day, they didn't come. Let me take you back a little. I have a younger brother named Jason. He's 14. Everyone loves him. He's loud, funny, and always the center of attention. Our living room walls are covered with pictures of Jason. Baby Jason, Jason in a cowboy hat, Jason at the zoo, Jason sleeping. Me. Maybe 1 or 2 photos. Way in the corner. Whenever I brought home good grades, Mom would just nod. That's good, Maya. Keep it up. But when Jason drew a messy stick figure of a dog, she screamed like he won a big award. She even put it on the fridge for weeks. I wasn't jealous. Not at first. I thought maybe I was just the quiet one. The serious one. The good girl. I told myself that one day, if I worked hard enough, they'd finally see me. So I did. I joined clubs. I won competitions. I helped my teachers. I was the only girl in my class to get a full scholarship to a top college. And then came the big day. Graduation. I wrote a speech for it. I practiced in the mirror, imagining Mom crying and Dad filming me. I even picked out a dress I thought they'd like. Blue, my mom's favorite color. I was so excited. But 2 days before graduation, I heard something that shattered my heart. Mom was on the phone in the kitchen. She didn't know I was standing by the stairs. She whispered, "Well, Maya's graduation is on the same day as Jason's party, but it's okay. She'll understand. It's just a graduation. Just a graduation." I felt like the floor was pulled from under me. I walked back upstairs slowly like a robot. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat on my bed staring at the wall. So that was it. They chose his birthday party over my graduation. They didn't even tell me. Didn't even ask. I imagined them blowing up balloons, singing songs, eating cake. All while I stood alone on that stage. I wanted to believe it was a mistake. That maybe they'd surprise me at the last minute. That maybe they were hiding their plans to show up and cheer. But on the morning of graduation, when I came downstairs, Mom handed me a granola bar and said, "Don't forget to smile on stage, okay? No hugs. No, we're proud of you." No mention of coming along. Jason ran by shouting, "I'm gonna have a robot cake. With fire on it." Dad laughed and said, "That's my boy." I said nothing. Just took my bag and walked out the door. The ceremony was big. There were cameras and lights. I had to stand in line with my classmates, waiting for my turn. My name was last. Maya Thompson, class valedictorian. When they called me, people clapped. My teachers smiled. The principal shook my hand. But I couldn't hear any of it. My ears were ringing. All I saw were those empty seats. Kept staring, hoping, wishing, that somehow they'd walk in. Late maybe. Out of breath. Holding flowers. Saying, "We made it." But they didn't. They never came. When I gave my speech, my voice shook. I smiled like everything was okay. But inside I was breaking. My last words were, "To every person who believed in me, thank you." But the one group I wanted to thank wasn't there. After the ceremony, my friend Lily's parents hugged me. "We're proud of you, Maya," her dad said kindly. Her mom handed me a small flower. I smiled and thanked them, but my heart felt heavy. I walked home alone. The sun was shining, but it felt cold. When I reached the front door, I heard music blasting inside. Laughter. balloons tapping against the ceiling. Jason was opening presents. Mom was taking pictures. Dad was wearing a party hat. I stood there for a second, watching them through the window. And in that moment something inside me changed. I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was done. If they wanted to act like I didn't matter, I'd show them what it felt like to lose me. I walked upstairs, closed my door, and picked up my phone. I opened every photo, every award, every memory of the work I'd done over the years. The late nights, trophies, tears. Began to plan. Not for a fight, not for a scream, but for something bigger. Something they'd never forget. Because sometimes silence isn't weakness. It's power. After the party downstairs faded into the night, I packed my bag. Not a big one. Just a small black suitcase I kept under my bed. I stuffed in a few clothes, my laptop, and the one photo I had of myself, holding my first science trophy in 7th grade. That was the only time I remember Dad saying, "Good job, kiddo." I didn't even pack my graduation certificate. I didn't need proof for them anymore. I needed space. I needed freedom. While everyone was asleep, I opened my laptop and started building something. Folder. I named it, "The Daughter You Forgot." Inside, I added photos of all my certificates, every trophy, every news article I was in, every school event I led. I uploaded it all into a cloud folder. Then I wrote a short message at the top of the page. "While you were busy with cake and candles, I was earning everything without you." I stared at those words for a long time. Then I closed the laptop. My hands were cold. My heart. It was heavy. But I didn't let myself cry. Not this time. I had already applied for a summer internship 2 months earlier, in a different city. A company liked my application so much, they called me the same week and said, "You're in, Maya." I had kept it a secret. Now it was my escape plan. I wrote one last thing, a letter. I placed it gently on my pillow before I zipped up my bag. In big, clear handwriting I wrote, "If Jason's birthday was more important than the biggest day of my life, maybe I should start building a life that doesn't need you." That was it. No goodbye. No hugs. Just truth. I took one last look around my room. I touched the corner of the wall where I used to draw stars when I was 10. That wall watched me cry, grow, dream, and break. Then I walked out. It was 5:21 a.m. The birds were starting to sing. And for the first time ever, felt light. The bus ride to the new city was long. I kept my face by the window the whole time. I didn't check my phone. I didn't open my messages. I didn't want to know if they read the letter or not. I didn't want to be pulled back. I arrived just before sunset. The city looked bigger, louder, and faster than my little hometown. I was scared. But I also felt brave. The internship company had a small apartment for students. It wasn't fancy. 1 room, tiny bed, desk, and a squeaky fan. But to me, it was perfect. It was mine. No one here knew me as Jason's sister. No one here forgot I existed. I was just Maya. And for once that was enough. The days were hard. I worked 8 hours a day doing research and reports. I made mistakes. I cried in the bathroom once when my boss said my report was sloppy. But I learned. I grew stronger, smarter, louder. Every night I wrote in a notebook. I called it Things I Wish My Parents Knew. Some pages were angry. Some were sad. One page just said, "I wish you had clapped for me." I didn't block their numbers right away. For 2 weeks I waited. Maybe they'd call. Maybe they'd say sorry. Maybe they'd ask me to come home. But nothing came. Not even a "Where are you?" So I blocked them. All of them. Cried that night. Not because I was angry, but because I finally understood something. They were never going to change. They were only going to keep choosing Jason. And I didn't want to be anyone's second choice. Time passed. The internship ended, and they offered me something big. A spot at their office full-time while I went to college in the same city. They'd pay half my rent and cover some of my books. I said yes without blinking. I didn't tell my parents where I was. I didn't tell anyone from back home. I didn't go to Christmas dinner. I didn't reply to family group texts. I became a ghost in my own story. And you know what? Felt good. But every now and then I checked in on them, quietly. I found Jason's Instagram one day. He had dyed his hair blue. His posts were wild parties, strange people, weird captions like, "Don't care if I crash." He looked lost. Then I found Mom's Facebook. She posted pictures of Jason blowing out candles. Jason at the beach. Jason and Dad laughing. Still no pictures of me. Still no post that said, "Our daughter graduated." Hurt. Even after everything, it still hurt. One night I got a message from my neighbor back home, Miss Tilly. She was sweet. Used to give me cookies when I walked her dog. Her message said, "Hey sweet girl. Just wanted you to know. Your parents miss you. But they don't know how to say it." I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't reply. Because missing someone and being sorry aren't the same thing. I started college that fall. A big university with tall buildings and students from everywhere. I made new friends. I joined a tech club. I even started tutoring kids again. It made me feel like myself. One night I gave a speech in my communications class. The topic was, overcoming something that broke you. I stood in front of 30 strangers and said, sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most don't. And that's the kind of pain that never really goes away. But you don't have to let it keep you small. People clap. A girl came up after class with tears in her eyes and whispered, "I felt that." That was the first time I realized. Maybe I wasn't just healing. Maybe I was becoming powerful. I didn't know then what was happening back home. That Jason had dropped out of school. That he'd gotten in trouble. That Mom cried every night. That Dad stopped going to work. I was far away. Quiet. Focused. And growing. They had chosen Jason. And I had chosen myself. College wasn't easy, but I was getting better at life. I started waking up at 6 a.m. Take cold showers. Eat toast with peanut butter. Go to my classes, then straight to work at the office. I barely had time to think about home. And honestly, I liked it that way. I was learning to live without them. But deep down, a tiny part of me still waited. Waited for that message. That phone call. That voice saying, "Maya, we're sorry. We see you now." Never came. Until one night, it did. It was raining outside. I was sitting in my tiny apartment, eating noodles and watching a documentary for my homework. The room was dark except for my desk lamp. Then knock, 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 someone knocked on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I paused the video and tiptoed over to the door. I looked through the peephole. My heart dropped. It was them. My mom, my dad, and Jason. I didn't open the door right away. I just stood there, frozen. Mom looked thinner. Her hair was messy. Her eyes were red like she had been crying for days. Dad looked tired. His shoulders were slouched and his hands were shaking. Jason looked like a stranger. Ill. Angry. Lost. His eyes were empty. I slowly opened the door. "Hi, sweetheart," Mom whispered, her voice cracking. I didn't say anything. I just stepped aside and let them in. They looked around the small apartment like they didn't expect me to be doing well. Like they thought I'd be broken without them. I handed them each a towel to dry off. Jason sat on the edge of my bed, not saying a word. Mom and Dad sat on the small couch near the window. We sat in silence for a minute. Then Dad said, "We need your help. Not we missed you. Not we're proud of you. Not how have you been. Just, we need your help." Jason had been arrested. He was caught with pills in his backpack. He said they weren't his. But it didn't matter. He could go to jail if someone didn't post bail. That someone was me. Because they had nothing left. They told me Dad lost his job 6 months ago. Mom was trying to sell handmade soap online. Their savings were gone. Bills were piling up. They had even tried selling Jason's video games. Nothing worked. Now they needed me. The daughter they forgot. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood up slowly and walked into the kitchen. Made tea. I gave them each a cup. Quiet. Mom thanked me. Her hands were shaking so much, she spilled some on the table. Then I sat across from them and asked one question. Do you remember where you were on my graduation day? They froze. Jason blinked. Dad looked down. Mom opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I said it again, louder this time. Do you remember where you were? Silence. I pointed at Jason. You were watching him blow out candles, while I stood alone on a stage I worked 4 years to reach. My voice didn't shake. You didn't even ask me what time it was. You didn't check if I needed a ride. You just told yourselves, she'll understand. Mom started crying. Dad wiped his face and looked away. Jason muttered, I didn't ask them to miss it. And I said, but they missed it anyway. Then I stood up, walked to my desk and opened a drawer. I pulled out a small white envelope. I placed it on the table. Dad reached for it, opened it. Inside was a check. For $1. He looked confused. That's all you're giving us? I looked him right in the eyes and said, that's exactly how much your support felt like to me. Gasped. Jason looked like he was about to shout. But I raised my hand. You chose him. Again and again. So now choose him again. Bail him out. Fix him. Save him. Like you never did for me. I walked over to the door. Opened it. I worked for everything I have. Alone. And I'm not going to let you break me now that you need me. I looked at Jason. I hope you find your way out. But I'm not your exit plan. They didn't move. So I said quietly but clearly, you can go now. Slowly they stood. Mom whispered, Maya, we made mistakes. He nodded. Yes, you did. But now I'm done paying for them. As they stepped out into the hallway, Jason turned around. He didn't say sorry. He didn't thank me. He just said, you're cold. I looked him right in the eyes and replied, no, I'm just not yours to burn anymore. Then I shut the door, locked it, sat on the floor, and cried. Not because I felt guilty, not because I was mean, but because that door, for the first time in my life, had my power behind it. And I finally felt like Maya was in control. That night I made myself a promise. No more empty seats. No more begging to be seen. No more waiting to be loved the way I deserved. I would rise, and they would have to watch from far, far away. It had been almost a year since that night. I never saw them again. Not in person. Not online. Nothing. Kept going. I finished college early. A full year ahead of my classmates. My job at the company grew too. Got promoted. People started noticing me. Me, Maya Thompson, the girl nobody clapped for. Began telling my story. First in small classrooms. Then at events. Then on podcasts. I spoke about being the forgotten child. About choosing yourself even when it hurts. About turning silence into strength. One time after I spoke, a girl came up to me in tears. She said, I thought I was invisible. But hearing you gave me hope. That's when I knew. This was bigger than revenge. This was healing. Then one night it happened. I was home in my new apartment. Bigger, brighter, and paid for all by myself. I had just finished brushing my teeth when my phone rang. Private number. I never answer private numbers. But something in my chest whispered, pick up. So I did. Hello. There was a pause. Then a voice said, Maya, it's Jason. Froze. I hadn't heard his voice in a whole year. He sounded different. Slower. Softer. Older. I'm in rehab, he said. I sat down on the edge of my bed. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, he continued. But I needed to tell you something. I didn't speak. Just listened. I was angry at you, he said. At the check. The way you shut the door. I told myself you were heartless. He sighed. But the truth is, you were the only one who didn't lie to me. I felt my eyes sting. Everyone else kept saving me, making excuses, blaming the world. But you told me to fix myself. And when you gave me that $1 check, I was furious. He laughed quietly. But that's what woke me up. I kept that check, he said. I taped it to the wall of my rehab room. Every morning I look at it and remember. I let you down. My hands shook. I didn't know what to say. I'm not calling to ask for anything, he said. I just wanted to say thank you. Silence filled the space between us. Then I whispered, thank you for calling. After we hung up, I stared at the wall for a long time. And I cried. Not because I was sad, but because after all the pain, something good finally grew out of it. My revenge wasn't a knife. It was a mirror. And Jason finally looked into it. A few weeks later, I was invited to speak at a national youth event. Thousands of people. Cameras. Lights. Huge stage. Before I walked on, I looked out at the crowd. And suddenly I imagined a chair. One empty chair. The one from my graduation day. The one they never sat in. But this time I didn't feel pain. Felt power. I walked up, took a deep breath and began. Sometimes the people you love most forget to love you back. Sometimes they don't clap when you shine. But that doesn't mean your light is worthless. I shared my whole story. The birthday party. The empty seat. The $1 check. The call that changed everything. And when I finished, the room was silent. Then they stood up. Clapping. Cheering. Crying. For me. Meh. The girl who once stood alone. I never rebuilt my relationship with my parents. Not fully. They tried calling once or twice. I didn't answer. Because forgiveness doesn't always mean going back. Sometimes it means moving forward without anger. I did hear that Jason finished rehab. He's working now. Helping others. We text sometimes. Short messages. Quiet support. He's trying. And that's enough for me. Now every time I speak, I save one chair in the front row. I leave it empty. Not out of sadness, but as a reminder that I no longer need anyone to fill it to feel whole. I'm enough. That's how I made them wish they hadn't missed my graduation. Not by hurting them, but by rising without them. And that is the best kind of revenge. What do you think about this story? Do not forget to tell me where you are watching from.